I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video.
What is up, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my special guest, a friend of the show. He's been around the show, so let's welcome my guy, Josh Putnam, the Breakdown King, man. How's it going, bro?
How's it going, CG? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah, anytime, brother. It's been a while, but hey, man, how do you feel about last season's Niners team in general, man?
Well, last season's Niner team has to be ranked up there with one of the best ever. It's a real shame the way the season ended, but as far as just the talent on the team and the points they were putting up and the wins they were producing, right up there among the best to ever do it.
I mean, you can make a strong argument about it. Like, there was just that team that was just, they were just close at the grass and they just didn't get it done. It's just, you know how you feel like when you're just that close and it just slips on your hands a little bit. It's kind of like one of those type of seasons. But you can say it was the best season all you want, but the ultimate price is to win the Super Bowl at the end of the day. So when I look at last season, nice, it was cool. We got the number 1 seed, but it didn't get us that number 6. But we're still trying to look to establish it, But going into this offseason, I feel like we're actually doing a little better than expected. So how do you feel about the Niners offseason when it comes to their approach?
I think it's been an excellent offseason. I don't know if you want to talk about the draft right now, but I was really impressed with their draft personally.
Oh, yeah, we could throw in the draft, once we get into the free agency players and all that stuff, we can throw that in. I already got that in there.
Excellent.
So I'm hearing a little bit of positivity about this Isaac Yadacum. I'm hearing he's actually standing out.
I haven't really been following too much of the camp news, the ins and outs of the camp, but I know they have brought in a number of undrafted players, as well as all of their draft picks, and they've looked impressive so far.
Yeah, it's been kind of looking out, but I guess since you want to talk about the draft, how'd you like about the draft so far?
Well, there's a saying in football that bad GMs, draft for need, that GMs who draft for need get fired. And what does that mean? Well, with the 49ers, one of their biggest needs in the offseason was clearly at the right tackle position. Well, an NFL record, 8 tackles were drafted before the 49ers even picked in the first round. So they weren't going to use that valuable first-round pick on the 9th best tackle in the draft, right? So what do? They go get what I consider to be probably the 2nd or 3rd best wide receiver in the entire draft, Pearsall. And he's going to be, I think, an immediate starter at that position.
So wait a minute. You had Pearsall on top of your receiver list, or is it just based because of the Niners' availability?
I had him up towards the top. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. was my number 1 pick, obviously, but I had Pearsall right up there.
Interesting. I just thought he was a reach, So
really.
So what really stood out about Pearsall? Did you watch some of his tape from Florida, or what really caught your attention?
Yeah, his ability to separate and his athleticism, able to make tough contested catches, but also to gain separation as well, particularly in man coverage.
I think he's probably one of those picks where maybe he might turn out okay. Sometimes, a while back, when we drafted Ayuk, I don't think anybody was expecting that guy to be the pick. but he turned out to be the best choice. So, yeah, but sometimes it's always that unpopular pick that everybody kind of says, oh, it's a reach, but somehow it turns out better.
Well, it gives them great insurance with the Brandon Ayuk situation, although I do expect that to get done. It is a move for the future, but it's also a move for right now. You know, the 49ers schedule came out, and they haven't had the rest days built in, you know, like some of the other teams. This is 2 years in a row now. The team plays a lot of games going to the playoffs every year. They're one of the older teams in the league in the playoffs last year. So, you know, these young guys, they're going to play. They're going to have to play, and they're going to get a lot of time on that field.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because the rest disadvantage of this year is actually a little bit different than last year, because last year I think it was a 20-day disadvantage. This year it's only going to be like 21 or 22 rest disadvantage or something like that, because if you look at the rest of the schedules, they're playing 2 short week games, like 2 Thursday night football games, which I really think they should be required, like all teams should be required to have 1 Thursday night spot, you know, just to be fair. But why do we got to take the 2 Thursday night football games? That's a short week.
Yeah, you know, the majority of the team, I believe the majority plays 1 Thursday night game. It's like just under 50%. I think 14 teams or something are playing 2 Thursday night games, and the 49ers are one of those teams. At least we get one of them at home.
Yeah, but I guess it's something to do with the fact that we make more revenue for them. I guess that's part of why.
Hey, they want to put the Niners on prime time. What can we say?
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's give a shout out to some of these guys. Under the Helmet Pod, which I believe is Carcast. Give him a shout out to him.
Yo.
And shout out to my guy Roberto Hasty. And there's a familiar face. You collaborate with him. Drew, we were just talking about him earlier. Yeah, Drew, man, it's good to see Drew. But me and him kind of been doing a pretty good show where we do a little happy hour, do a little mix, little fun, you know. I think we were thinking about something coming up, maybe up this upcoming season, maybe on your free time, we might do maybe one Friday show with you or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're trying to maybe work on something like that with you, but I know your schedule's kind of like a little depending on how it works, you know.
Well, it takes a lot of time to do the breakdown videos, but I can always squeeze things in. You know, the good thing about 2 Thursday night games is that's extra time that I'll have to work on videos and things like that.
Yeah, and plus you already break down a lot of good videos. Like, I think the crazy part about your videos is you're like the I guess you're the category of the most underappreciated, you know, because everybody talks about John Chapman, which we all love him.
Rightfully so.
Johnny Dell, he's already getting his name up there for some reason, but we all love him, of course. But for whatever reason, Josh is just the one guy that nobody talks about, man. It's just you're like the Nick Bosa of this community, man. No respect? Good Lord.
Well, you know, we've got a great following on YouTube, and just shout out to all my subscribers. You guys are tremendous, and you know, we get plenty of views when we do the breakdown videos during the season, and I'm just, you know, I really love the sense of community we have, and hey, if more want to join, the more the merrier. Well, everyone's welcome.
Yeah, it is. I think the way you're growing your channel is like, in a way, you know, you do good on your breakdowns. Like I guess for some of the videos, if I got nothing else to do, I'll either watch your videos for the majority of the videos from there, or I'll either watch between Johnny Dell's or John Chapman if I have to. It's like, you know, it keeps me entertained. I'll have to see what you got for 45 minutes instead of because you put 45 minutes, bro. You almost put like an entire hour video. I'm like, damn, I guess I can watch an entire 45 minutes of it.
I go in depth, you know. It's really hard for me to leave stuff out because I'm fascinated with the process. You know, how did we get from point A to point B to point C? You know, okay, so the 49ers had to punt on that last drive. Well, why? Why did they have to punt? Well,
so you explain,
you know,
and then
explain, you know, they took a penalty here and then they took a sack here, and it was because this guy made a mistake. But really, if you look, Shanahan drew it up nicely, it just wasn't executed or whatever happened. And then, you know, now we're in this punting situation, and now the other side has an opportunity. I'm fascinated with that process.
Yeah, and I guess you're kind of like that mystery guy. You just give us the clues why it's this happening, you know. So it's like I can see why it goes for 45 minutes, but when you watch Johnny Dell's video, I think he only gets you about like almost 30 minutes of the video, and John Chapman will give you like actually John Chapman might even give you an entire 40 some minutes, longer than you a little bit. But I think every now and then if I see you post your videos, it's either a 45-minute breakdown.
Yeah, I think John. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you subscribe to him, he does every single play.
Yeah, he does every
Doesn't
single
take
play.
any plays off. So that's as comprehensive as it gets, right there.
Yeah, but he kind of gets on for like a 40 or almost 50-minute video of it, which he does really good job at it too.
Yeah.
But I think for you, you do it a little bit more effective. And I think when we look at these players, you know, since we're going to talk about some of the draft prospects, I'm already hearing a lot of positive buzz. Like since we already talked about Pierce, so there's this buzz about the cornerback, Ronaldo Green. This guy might even surprise people because he's actually looking pretty good from what I'm looking at so far.
Yeah, second round selection, very high draft pick, and again, somebody I expect to play. You know, that we've been constantly working on the backfield, you know, since Kyle and John took over really in San Francisco. Been a lot of moving parts. Logan Ryan came in and helped us out. He's no longer there. You know, for better or for worse. I know he made some comments in the offseason, but anyway, you know, this guy Green has a chance to, again, these young guys are going to play because of the rest, because of the schedule, because of the needs that we have in the backfield. And we don't know how, you know, guys are going to recover from injury, things like that. So these young guys are going to play. I'm excited to see what Green brings to the table.
Yeah, I think Green brings a physicality type of style. He's a sticky guy in coverage, so that's something we've been looking at. I mean, the only negative that I've seen from him is pretty much being the most penalized cornerback. So that's something he has to work on.
Well, you know, our new defensive coordinator, Sorensen, you know, he was the pass defense specialist, right? And before that, he was the secondary coach for the Seattle Seahawks. So he has a long history of, you know, understanding what it takes to play that cornerback position. Yeah, he played defensive back. You know, he was a quarterback in college, and then a guy named Michael Vick came in and took his job. Yeah. So, you know, he had to switch, but it gives him a unique perspective and really a lot of knowledge. And Kyle just loves those really knowledgeable guys that can come in and bring, you know, the intellectual side of the game, you know, as part of what they offer. And I expect him to work with Green, and it's not lost on me that we have a new defensive coordinator now, and he went and hand-picked some defensive specialists like Green.
Yeah, Green's going to be like I was hoping we were going to get TJ Tampa, but I think the more I watch Green, the more I kind of like his film. The only thing I don't like about him is, yeah, maybe he doesn't get the most targets, but he doesn't get enough interceptions, but maybe that will translate once he gets his opportunities. But I think what stands out about him, he is a physical kind of guy, so that would fit pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And we got that's a safety and later on in the fourth round too, didn't we?
Yeah, we got this kid, Malik Mustafa. You know, the guy just looks like a linebacker with his body weight, but he's kind of standing out so far. Like, as far as our depth at safety, I think he might even solidify that spot so far.
Yeah.
So we didn't even mention the offensive line guy. We didn't even mention Dominic Pooney, but I think he's the most intriguing draft pick of them all. He hasn't allowed a single sack his entire career at Kansas.
Well, you know, yeah, go ahead.
Like a big offensive lineman who can play tackle and play guard. But he was playing tackle last year, so what do you think of him?
Yeah, well, that's huge. You know, he's somebody that could come in off the bench in case there's an injury or something like that and fill in right away at any of those positions. And we talked about the right tackle position. Of course, the 49ers also acquired Chris Hubbard in the offseason. If he's healthy, he's among one of the best, but, you know, there's some question marks there. But we'll see, you know, we'll see how not McGlinchey, McKivitz. We'll see how McKivitz does. And also, you know, Pooney can provide, like you talked about, the inside help because it's not just the tackle position, right? It's the center and the guard. If he's needed on the inside, you know, he'll be available for that.
I mean, Maybe we got to just see how McKivitz does. I mean, let's be honest. He had a full season. So maybe
Yep.
more experience under his belt could be a good thing. Maybe he won't make the same mistakes because sometimes it just comes down to experience.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's a wait and see situation. McKivitz with that full season under his belt and an off season, he's going to have a little bit of a head start over these rookies, even though they're highly motivated. And we'll just have to see, if these guys come in and they're just absolutely incredible physically and they've got great chemistry with the rest of the guys on the offensive line, of course they're going to play. Of course they're going to start, But for now, I would think that McKivitz would be in the driver's seat as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Everything's subject to change.
Yeah, it could change by any moment, but I think for right now they really like McKivitz of where he's at. So I don't think they want to give him competition, which he should have competition, but they really like him so much, so they're probably just not worried about it right now. So when you look at the safety depth, we needed to address safety because of Hufanga's injury, but drafting Malik Mustafa, I think this was the great spot to get him. I think he had a third-round grader, if not close to a second-round grade, but this guy was a baller, a physical safety that we like those kind of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point about Huff's injury. I expect guys like maybe Huff and definitely Greenlaw, to return later in the season, not necessarily at the beginning of the year. They want to be careful with those guys. You don't know how you're going to respond. And to be frank, we're going to need them down the stretch. We've been talking about it. It's a long season, 17 games now, not just 16, plus the playoffs, plus hopefully maybe the Super Bowl. That's a lot of games. And with the short rest that the 49ers are going to be on, it's going to be tremendous to get players like Hufanga and Greenlaw, two of the top names in the business. It's going to be incredible to get them late in the year as reinforcements.
Yeah, like Greenlaw's going to be coming back late in the season. I don't expect him to be playing this early part of the season because he's still recovering from Achilles heels. But, yeah, Malik Mustafa, he might be the one starting unexpectedly. But I think with Hufanga, we don't want to rush it with Hufanga because an ACL injury is no joke. It can be a setback if he goes out there too soon.
Yeah, and in regards to Mustafa starting, remember, this is somebody that's, again, hand-picked by the new defensive coordinator. So everything's going to be built around these guys. I expect the secondary to be flying around. This is going to be sort of, a new look. There was times last year when we didn't really know if we could sort of trust the defense or the defensive coordinator, as much as, we have talent across the board. But with this new look, I just have a good feeling going into this season.
I think we kind of filled in a couple of weak spots that nobody was even talking about. I think when it came down to it was our depth piece. Like in the secondary, I think cornerback was like a kind of a weak spot because of the injuries. Because if we had some injuries, it would have to come down to Abry Thomas or some other cornerback stepping in. But this year, I feel like it's pretty deep this year. Like we signed some quality cornerbacks who can step in and play pretty well. Like we just signed Isaac Yadakam, who actually showed some signs in the midway to the season, and he showed that he can be a quality starter. But then you saw Rock Yeltsin, which he's not a scrub, but he just never was able to stay healthy. But he might not be that bad of an option to have as your backup cornerback, from my understanding.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're saying Yadakam's been impressing in these mini camps.
Yeah, like from what Sorensen is saying and from what all the other DB coaches are saying, it seems like they really like what they've seen so far. Like, I guess what stood out about Nick Sorensen was when they signed this guy, he immediately went to the gym to work out. Didn't even, like most players would just be happy to get signed and get to work pretty soon, but he's the guy that just signed and just got to work.
Love it. All business, they know what's up. And of course, we also acquired Leonard Floyd. At the defensive end position. Again, we didn't use a draft pick that we didn't feel wasn't right for the moment,
I mean, you got Leonard Floyd, which he's got more experience in, plus he's a guy that we were very familiar with. I mean, he's going to fit pretty well because they're going to mostly try to focus on Bosa, but it's going to leave some opportunities for Floyd. You look at the rest of our D lines, right? Like, sure, losing Armstead can be a big of a loss because of his presence and leadership that he brought to the team, but at the same time, he's already getting up in age, and injuries have pretty much kind of slowed him down. And I think he was just too much for us to retain. So I think he just wasn't willing to take a pay cut. So I understood the business part. But at the end of the day, we made a move and we got a couple of D tackles. So hopefully it fills that void.
Yeah, strictly a business decision with Armstead. No question that, when healthy, he's among the best, if not one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game. Outstanding at stopping the run, of course, just clogs up the middle. But, we know that he's not healthy, and it's going to be a recurring thing. We're aware of that. We know it. And just at the dollar amount, that because we have to spread this money around to a lot of players, right? Like Christian McCaffrey, like Brandon Ayuk. At the dollar amount it was going to cost for Armstead to not be able to have him for that full slate of games, it's disappointing, but the 49ers, they made a business decision. It is what it is.
Well, we did use him as a designated post June 1st. And then the crazy part about it was, what did we do after that post June 1st designated? We actually used that to give Christian McCaffrey an extension and give him a little bit more extra money.
Yeah, well deserved. I mean, I think I saw a stat. It was like in the 2 years he's been here, 39 touchdowns scored, something insane like that. Just puts up tons of numbers. He's kind of like Frank Gore. You can count on one big run every single game from McCaffrey. You don't know when it's going to come, but you just know at some point he's going to go off. Well deserved extension. Makes him the highest paid running back in the league.
Yeah.
Well deserved, in my opinion.
The crazy part is it's about $19 million, which already resets the market. But let's not fool ourselves, man. McCaffrey is more than just a running back. He is a dangerous receiving back too. So he has like two different type of assets. He's a decent pass blocker, and he does good enough on the passing game. So that's where you really value the most. I think people were kind of starting to develop running backs, and he felt that it was disrespectful that the running backs are not getting the type of pay they deserve. But I think what he said is going in the right direction with him getting this type of contract.
Well, I think he hit the nail on the head. He doesn't just run the football. And on my channel, that's something we talk about over and over again, is in the NFL, you have to be able to do more than just run the football. You have to be able to catch passes out of the backfield. We know Christian McCaffrey is one of the best at that. He probably could have played receiver and been one of the best receivers.
Yeah, he could.
The key point that you also said is he blocks. He pass protects. He protects the quarterback. And with an offensive line that sometimes needs some help, that is critical. It gets you on the field on third downs. It means that McCaffrey can play on every down. He's a threat on every single down during the game. You don't know if he's getting the ball. You don't know if he's protecting. You don't know what he's going to do. He's hard to defend, and that's why, that kind of dollar amount is worth it.
Yeah, it is, especially when he's a huge part of your offense. Like, the way we pay Deebo Samuel is because he did a lot of that stuff too. But that's going to be another question mark. What's going to happen with Deebo's future? Because he's the only one that didn't get an extension. So I'm guessing he's definitely playing for a contract here for sure. Whether it's with us, that's something to be discussed. I think whoever gets this trade, I think we're probably going to trade him by next year. If not, get something in return. Because I don't think Deebo is in the future plans.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Again, it could be a business type decision. There's a lot of mouths that need to be fed, right? And it's just you just have to try to spread it out. I think part of it is going to depend on how Pearsall does and how some of these younger wide receivers do. Can they come in right away and step up right away? A lot has. I want to be careful how I say this because I love Deebo Samuel and Kyle talks about what a threat he is and how it changes the way defenses play. So he's valuable, but there has been some made about his lack of effort sometimes on plays, taking plays off, not necessarily blocking all the way down the field like we want to see. And look, it's really easy for me to sit here in my comfortable chair and say, hey, he's not blocking or, whatever. I understand that, in the game of football, sometimes, you need to take a play off. I understand that. But week in and week out, we're kind of seeing this crop up. So it does make me wonder with Debo's contract situation, if that is a factor, if the 49ers are taking a look at that kind of a thing, or if, it's all going to be worked out by next year and we're going to forget we ever even had this conversation,
or just keep going with the weapons he has too. So it's like, the interesting part is, why haven't we even signed Ricky Pearsall? I haven't even seen nothing that we signed a majority of our rookies, but not Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. The higher picked rookies are the last to sign, right? So these guys come in the first round are usually the last to sign. Who knows what him and his agent are looking at. Sometimes they want something that's a little bit tricky. You hear about offset language all the time. If the 49ers have to cut him and then he goes and plays for the Jets, do the 49ers have to pay a portion of that contract? Stuff that probably is never, ever going to happen. Sometimes these guys get hung up on it early on in the negotiations, and sometimes you got to step back and see the big picture. But I'm sure they will get Purcell signed before the start of the year.
They'll get something figured out for sure. I mean, Ayuk and Pearsall will get something done. It's one or the other, but it's a good problem to have now that you got like some legitimate wide receivers. I think Jacob Cowan's probably going to be the most intriguing one of them all, like the speed. Even though he's not that big, but I think he might be something special.
Well, not only that, this year they have changed the rules for kickoff returns. Where the return team, the kicking team is lined up much closer to the return team now. It's it's almost like a running play, and this guy could be a huge part of that. All these teams have had to address this. Well, the 49ers, they have a lot of guys who can return the football, including Purcell, although I don't expect our first-round pick to be doing that. We also brought in Trent Taylor and some other guys, but this guy, Cowing, I think that's going to be your returner.
I think possibly this may be a surprise to you, but I think Garendo's going to be that guy.
Ooh, I loved that pick. I think he might be the best running back in the whole draft. I mean, that
was the most surprising pick, because why do we keep getting running backs every damn year except that? It's just the weird part, but the undrafted guys are always the better one. And then why do we even waste it? But how do you feel about Isaac Garendo pick?
Well, I trust me, I understand how you feel. When we've talked about the fact that the running back position has been devalued in recent years, and it showed in the draft. Teams didn't draft a running back at all until late in the draft, and I believe Garendo was only the second or third running back taken. According to some experts, he might have been the best running back in the draft. He was up there, and the 49ers, they didn't wait for him. They traded up to go get him. So they really believe in this guy. They said, how does this guy fall in this far in the draft? We've got to go get him. They took advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, and there was a lot of reports about them possibly getting him in the third round, and then that went silence. It's just something was fishy about this guy's name for some reason. And the crazy part about him getting drafted was he was drafted before the guys that he was backing up. Tell me otherwise. He was backing up Braylon Allen at Wisconsin, right? He was backing him up. He was backing up.
The thing with Garendo, how's his pass protection, right?
Yeah.
So that's the best way to get on the field for a running back is to learn all those blitz pickups and protection packages. If he hasn't done that, he's not going to see the field. And this is what we've kind of seen with some of the guys we have on the roster. With help me out, the guy we have.
The guy we had was Jordan Mason, who can't.
Jordan Mason, thank you. Yeah, everyone kept saying week after week, why isn't Jordan Mason getting more snaps? Why isn't he can't pass block? And so it's a huge disadvantage. Yes, he's tremendous carrying the football, but when the defense knows for sure that you're doing that, it really limits you.
Yeah, but the crazy part about Grendel getting drafted was he was drafted ahead of his guys that he was backing up in college. Braylon Allen, I think that's how you say his name, from Wisconsin, he was backing up. And then the guy from the other Louisville running back, the other guy had to wait until like the next round to get drafted. I forget his name. Jawan I don't know, Jawan something, but he was backing him up also. But the fact that he got picked ahead of those are the guys he was backing up in college. But the positive part about Guerrero was he has less wear and tear. Most backs, most running backs who have the most wear and tear in college, they always have their careers cut short for some reason, or they just don't produce like they used to.
That's a brutal position, you know. You make a great point.
Like, I think when you look at running backs over the years, if you have been used the less, you're probably going to be the most effective at the next level.
Yeah, no argument here.
Like, you look at Raheem Mostert, like, I think he didn't have much carries in college. I think that's the comp that we're looking at, because if you look at the talent, I kind of see a lot of Raheem Mostert in Guerendo's game a little bit more. Like, everybody keeps saying Jonathan Taylor. Nah, Jonathan Taylor's a different kind of back. I think when you look at Guerendo's type of skill set, this is like a Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, well, he's 220 pounds and 4.3 speed, so it's very, very similar. Big physical back, but one that can really turn on the jets.
Yeah, and he can possibly return kicks too, which I think that's my wild card pick right there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have a huge role in this offense, but I think in year 2 he'll have a huge part because I think he's mostly going to be used in different situations. But then you look at the rest of the draft picks. Like, we get this offensive lineman from USC who can play center and guard, and I think he played some tackle. But Jarrett Kingston, I don't know, just an unknown commodity. I guess he's somebody that's kind of on our radar, but kind of an intriguing prospect, to say the least. A strong individual, very athletic, but wasn't into the rankings, which is weird.
Well, like you said, can play all the positions, right? So, you need a swing tackle. You need somebody that can come in and play guard for maybe a play or two, or maybe sometimes for a whole half or a whole game or more. So these guys that can come in and play guard, play tackle, can just sort of come right in and fill that role. They are valuable.
Yeah, there is valuable with versatility, especially him. He can play all the spots, so that's not going to be a problem. If Willis or Latu can't beat Thomas for number 2, I'm nervous because Washington fans told me that Thomas was battling with injuries. Well, we're going to see how that plays out at training camp. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say Braden Willis is going to be the number 2 tight end because he's got the advantage. He's already been involved with this offense, but he's been mostly asked to block. So if you've been asked to block majority of the time, more than likely the coaching staffs are going to trust you more. Latu is kind of like in that 8 ball, man, because he's coming off an injury. So it's kind of like, can he come back the same, or can he actually redeem himself? That's going to be a little uphill battle. Logan Thomas is already coming here. He's already like barely learning our offense. So maybe he might be the number 2 because of his experience, but I think we'll see how that plays out, right?
Yeah, the experience goes a long way. I'm sure that Logan Thomas, knows exactly what he needs to do to make an NFL roster at this point. He'll be ready to go for training camp. But, with Willis and Latu right there, again, it's a good problem to have, having all these guys ready to go. At the end of last season, Kyle did call a few plays to tight ends not named George Kittle, right? Because it catches the defense off guard. You hear so much about Kittle, you don't expect the other tight end to be running a pass play. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little more of that this year. And if Logan Thomas is dealing with injuries, I believe it will be Braden Willis that comes in and primarily as a blocker, but don't be surprised if he gets a few, balls thrown his way this season. And we'll just have to see how Latu can rebound. Didn't hear much from him last year, right? And then, like you said, dealing with injury. So we'll just have to see how he works himself back into this mix.
Yeah, it's really kind of hard to say. I wouldn't say I'm doubting him, but it's like last offseason, he just wasn't impressing everybody. Like, that one preseason game you had, that was pretty much it. But out of all the other practices, you were so frustrated. You just kept dropping the ball. and you got beat a little bit. And the difference with him is he's kind of like new at the position. So that's the challenging part. Like when you go from linebacker to tight end and play that position for 2 years, it's still new to you no matter how you look at it. Braden Willis has been playing that position for a while, so it's nothing new to him, and it's very familiar of what we run in this offense. So I think Braden's going to be the guy that has a little bit of the edge, but maybe with Logan Thomas' experience, you might want to consider having him out there because he's a reliable target.
Yeah, I think probably the beginning of the season be a lot of Thomas, and then I'd expect Willis to work his way in, as the year progresses. Again, long season, short rest. Niners are going to need all of these guys.
They are, especially with all the skill set players and all that. So we don't know who the backup's going to be at quarterback. So, of course, you look at Josh Dobbs. He had a good start. Now you look at Brandon Allen. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's going to be a great matchup there to watch, especially in these preseason games, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the most intriguing part is going to be the cornerback spot. Is Isaac Gadam going to claim that spot, or is it going to be Ronaldo Green who comes out of the blue and takes it?
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. The tape will tell the tale.
Yeah, we will.
I am excited for Josh Dobbs, though. We played him, and when we looked at that film, he was very impressive. I'm really surprised Arizona traded him. But they liked what they had in Kyler Murray, and Kyler came in and was just as impressive. So nothing wrong with that, but, business decision. But, getting Dobbs to come to our team, that's a good feeling. And with Brandon Allen already there, it's, again, another good problem to have.
Yeah, especially with reliable guys who can step in and play. We've seen what Josh Dobbs could do. What he did in Arizona was impressive, but I guess in Minnesota he didn't show enough. But maybe because of the system, but maybe with our offense, he might do pretty well. So maybe it won't be a problem with him. You look at the rest of the guys. So we go from Eric Armstead to Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, again, like we talked about, it's going to be hard to fill Armstead's shoes, and we still have Hargrave on the roster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He talked about the fact that he did not play as well last year as he wanted to, and so we might see a step up from him this year, and wouldn't that be tremendous?
Yeah, he would if he can come back to the same form, but he still made it to the Pro Bowl. He still got voted to the Pro Bowl, which is crazy. But yeah, I think this defensive line is going to be hungry this year. Because when I looked at the statistics, I checked out Jordan Elliott's what he's so good. He's good against the run, but everybody kind of had him as a poor grade, which I never understood. But when I was watching some of the tape, all he does is stop the run pretty well, from my understanding.
Well, that was Armstead's specialty, right? Is stopping the run. Forcing teams into these passing situations where, now we can turn loose Leonard Floyd. We can turn loose Nick Bosa. So that's definitely valuable to have those inside guys up there to stop those runs.
Yeah, and then getting Malik Collins, who does pretty much both ways. He's a good pass rusher in some perspective and a pretty good run stopper at the same time. Like, the fact that we only gave up a 7th-round pick for that guy, that's just a steal. Like, yeah. we should be dialed 911 because we got away with rob or we just robbed the damn Texans for that player. Like, come on,
it's good to have friends on the Texans coaching staff, I guess.
Yeah, you don't give away that type of talent like that, man. Like 7th-round pick? Good Lord. It's like we got it out of a free gift or something.
Hey, we won't turn it down.
But it's like how you think about it, like it's like you go to a flea market or something and you saw something that you wanted that was like $100+ or something that you couldn't afford, but you got it for like maybe less than $20 and it's still the same thing.
Well, that's right. And, sometimes guys just need a change of pace or a change of scenery. And, of course, we don't want to forget we have one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, Chris Kocurek. He typically gets more out of these players when they come to San Francisco.
I think Malik Collins is gonna break out and have like a really good season. I think he's gonna show what he's capable of, and maybe he might stay, or maybe might demand big dollars elsewhere. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, again, another good problem to have.
Yeah, Jordan Elliott. I think it's an underrated pickup for some reason because his best season was 2.5 sacks, but more of a run stopper. Then you look at this kid that we just signed, Yelter Matos Gross or Gross Matos.
Oh yes,
Like that guy's under the radar. So
yeah, yeah. He'd be great. And when it comes to a lot of these defensive guys, especially on the defensive line, you need to carry 9 or 10 of those guys on your roster for the entire season. They rotate in and out. A lot of them don't play the whole game. Even guys like Nick Bosa will rotate in and out. So it's to have a lot of these guys. I'm just seeing, depth at almost every position on this 49er roster. It's incredible.
yeah. And I guess from what Adam is hearing, he says he hears positive from the 49ers O-line at camp. So maybe they are holding up their own so far. But let's see how it goes in training camp first, because I'm not trying to sound like a hater, but I think we can get a better center. I think we can get a better center, but I think there's another spot, like is that guard spot, the left guard spot, and then you got the left tackle. But I think with McKivitz, maybe he might do okay. Maybe you got to understand that it was his first year being a starter, full-time starter, and usually it takes time. But late in the season, he showed some strides, so maybe he won't be that bad.
Well, and the offensive line is all about chemistry. The more these guys play together and play with one another, the better and better they're going to get because they just know, what their partner is going to do on a given play. They just know. And, having Brendel, Burford, and McKivitz all come back, the areas we're talking about where the 49ers might be looking to upgrade at some point. Well, having them all come back just in and of itself is a bonus. That does help to have that chemistry. And then on the left side, like you talked about, left tackle, he's going to be retiring soon, but not this year. He says he still feels good. Trent Williams. So we'll see how many more years he's got in him. But as of right now, he's still one of the best in the league.
Yeah. And then then you got John Feliciano back for one last year.
Yep.
And that's going to be a huge difference because he already knows our team pretty well, and he's already like a guy that would be our starter right off the bat because he's very familiar with how we run our offense. I think he would be the answer at that guard spot for now.
Well, at the left guard spot or the right guard spot?
No, the right guard spot is where Aaron Banks is at. The left guard is where he was playing at before.
And then what are they doing with Spencer Burford?
Oh, yeah. Burford's kind of been in and out for some reason.
But again, a good problem to have. You talk about 3 names here that I'd be happy with any one of those 3 guys. Competition and depth at every position. Yeah,
because if you look at the left tackle, that's where Trent is playing at, and then that's where Banks is playing the left guard. So, but I think the right guard, and you look at the right tackle and the center spot, that's kind of been one of the weakest spots. But it's not as bad as people think. It's
right.
I think they're starting to gel a little bit. So Burford is just having a sophomore slump. Hopefully it's something he can get better at because I really like the kid. I don't have a ill will towards him. I've always respect the kid, but he does need to get it together.
Yeah, he's had a few plays where just a few basic mistakes and, lost a play here, lost a play there. There wasn't a whole lot else that jumped out at me on the film just in terms of like, oh man, this guy every down is a problem. We need to address this. So again, like you say, it's not as bad as sometimes, people may make it out to be. I think for the time being, given our needs and how the team approached the draft and has approached free agency, perfectly acceptable with Jake Brendel as the center. And then, like you said, at the right tackle position, we'll just have to see. I think the 49ers were smart, not trying to force anything there, reach for draft picks that weren't there, pay too much money for free agents who were past their prime or whatever. We just sort of have to take this kind of one season at a time, and it's frustrating for the fans because we want it to be fixed, right now. But we just have to take the smartest approach and let it happen naturally.
Yeah, we don't have to overpay for certain players. Like instead of overpaying for offensive linemen, look at what's going on with those other teams.
Right.
I think financially they're going to suffer through cap space, but is this approach smart for us? Maybe, but I think I'd rather have a proven commodity at the offensive lineman spot, But I think with Aaron Banks, he's already proven otherwise. We already know what Trent Williams, he's got maybe a couple years. Maybe he might even play throughout his contract, so we'll see.
We shall see.
maybe if we win a Super Bowl this year, maybe this will be the year he retires, and that would be we would have to go offensive lineman, no question asked.
Oh yeah. We'd be trading draft picks to move up in that case, because then we'd sort of be in the same situation we're now, except we need 2 tackles potentially. So
yeah, 2 potential, unless we feel very high on McKivitz and just give him another contract and then keep him around and just get a tackle to draft, whatever one it is.
Well, we'll see. We'll see who improves and what happens.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, especially the linebacker spots. Like even without Drake Greenlaw, I don't know, Devondre Campbell kind of seems excited to be here for some reason.
He seems thrilled and, kind of was almost throwing some shade at Green Bay a little bit. Not sure
what
was going on there. It wasn't used properly or whatever the case, but he seems thrilled to be in San Francisco playing alongside Fred Warner, and up front, of course, with Nick Bosa and those guys. He could do it all, inside, outside. So I think with a new defensive coordinator, a lot of new faces, we're going to see these guys play, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Campbell does, actually, because let's see if he does. Like, we technically did sign him to a pretty decent contract, to a 1-year deal, but he was the backup option because we were going to go get Eric Kendricks, but Kendricks backed out and took the other offer instead, and then we ended up with Campbell instead.
Kendricks forgot to look at who wins that matchup, every year when we play the Cowboys, right?
Maybe he just wanted to be a starter and he didn't see it because the Niners had Drake Greenlaw. Maybe he just thought like, oh, wait, if Greenlaw comes back, I don't think I'm going to play much. I think Campbell looked at it this way and said, well, I'm on a winning team, so I'm going to contribute, so it don't matter. I'm getting up in age anyways. Who cares?
1-year deal, playing alongside Fred Warner, chance to win the Super Bowl. If he has a good season, he can go get a big payday somewhere. Very few drawbacks. You're right. Kendrick's probably looking a little bit further down the line, knows that at some point Greenlaw is going to come back, maybe looking for a little bit more stability.
Yeah, and he probably wanted to be a starter, so
yeah,
that was part of the factor. I don't think he had anything against us. He just said it had to do with the fact that Warner was going to be the guy, and then you had Drake Greenlaw coming off an injury soon, so that might be the factor.
Yeah, I would assume so, because why wouldn't you want to come to the Bay,
Yeah, and the cost of living is a little bit too much too. But then you look at the linebacker spot. Do you think Campbell is solidified as that spot or no?
Yeah, I would be surprised if he wasn't. Again, you never know.
You got to look at the rookies. Like, we got this Tatum Bethune kid. I don't know. Maybe he might make noise. Jalen Graham. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Jalen Graham and D. Winters, so we'll see.
Yeah, and sometimes some of those late round picks, they've worked out pretty well in San Francisco, to be frank. So, they could definitely come in. And look, it's just like we talked about earlier. If they are making the plays and getting it done on the field, they will start. And in any event, long season, short rest, these young guys are going to play.
Yeah, most definitely. They're going to contribute this upcoming season. So, as far as before we get on to this, prediction-wise, is it too early for you to predict the season, or we'll just have to wait and see for you?
Well, the rest, I keep bringing it up over and over again. To me, it is a big factor, and maybe a bigger factor than than people realize sometimes. It's become more of an issue in recent years in the NFL with the sort of expansion of Thursday night football, and showing games during the holidays now, like on Christmas and Thanksgiving night, extra Thursday night games that we haven't seen in years past. And so suddenly, this is starting to become a pretty big factor. We know that road teams are already at a disadvantage. If you're on the road on a short week, then you're at a severe disadvantage. You're only winning that game, statistically 20% of the time in the NFL, which is shockingly low. So for the 49ers to get several of these games where they're the road team on short rest, it's going to be a tough season for them. But I like the approach that they've taken. They've drafted a bunch of young guys. They're bringing a bunch of young guys in. They're sort of preparing themselves for that. We know that Kyle and John have the knowledge and the experience to not let something like the schedule, get in our way. The 49ers were pretty tired at the end of that Super Bowl. I mean, it was a long season. The playoffs, Green Bay went out and got a jump on us. Detroit went out and got a jump on us. You could tell that this team, even with those extra bye weeks, was a little bit run down. I wouldn't be surprised if the team struggles a little bit this year, sort of coming off of that. They still have some aging players like George Kittle, but I think a season where you go maybe 11-6 be perfectly acceptable. It really is going to come down to the other teams in the NFC and the other teams in the NFC West in particular. Seattle right now, big question mark. New head coach.
Yeah, it is with new coaching staff and all that.
Yep,
stuff.
some better players on defense, so I do expect them to improve, but they haven't really resolved their quarterback situation, at least as much as maybe some people would like. Arizona, I think kind of the same thing, a big question mark, maybe some improvements, probably not quite where they're going to want to be yet. LA, we forget it was just a few years ago, 2 years ago, it was the Rams in the Super Bowl, and they won that Super Bowl,
They're not far off.
The ending notwithstanding, they're not far off. So they are a threat any given season. You just kind of never know which Rams team is going to show up. But the 49ers could have some competition in the NFC West this year. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I think that's what's going to be we'll see how it plays out.
Clearly the best team in the NFC West still. I mean, no doubt about that.
But I think when you look at the competition, the Rams might just be the closest because let's not be surprised. Their offense is going to be a lot better when you look at their receiving core. Like Puka just came out of nowhere and just kind of gives you that Cooper Kupp guy, that Cooper Kupp kind of receiver. They just found another guy like him. It's going to be hard to figure out how they're going to go into their running game. Everybody was talking about Kyron Williams being a really good running back. And then you look at they just drafted Blake Corum from Michigan. So that's going to be intriguing to see how their running backs play out. Their offensive line. So the Rams, they actually address the offensive line in free agency, and they actually got some depth there. So what was their weakest spot last year? The offensive line. So they're gonna fix that right now, but I think, like you said, we still have a notch over them right now.
Yeah, if they can get that running game going, and then open up that passing game with Matt Stafford, with Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp and all those guys, they're always a threat to be a dangerous team. And of course, Seattle has Jackson Smith-Njigba, another young wide receiver with potential star power in the NFL. It made that great one-handed catch on Thursday Night Football against the 49ers last year.
Yeah, sure did, man. Everything will factor in. But I think as far as the Niners, we just have to stay healthy because we've been very lucky the previous years. But let's not forget about 2020, all those injuries. So we can still win our division. It's just, can we avoid those type of injuries?
That's right. And like I said, I think that's the approach that they've taken. Bring in a lot of these young guys, so that we can deal with injuries as they come up, give our older veterans a lot of rest, and hopefully some of these younger tight ends can step up and give George Kittle some rest. And the most important thing, protect the quarterback at all costs, because with Brock Purdy, we're going to be in every game.
Yeah. But I think for Brock Purdy, he's not going to be asked to hold onto the ball too long. He's going to be able to throw the ball a little quicker. So that's going to be – I think maybe that's why the offensive line is not as bad as you think, because Brock is only taking a few steps and then he's throwing the ball. So it's not going to be like Jalen Hurts where he has to hold on the ball forever and they got the best offensive line in football and he can still get sacked,
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Purdy, he's got the processing speed, and he just knows where to go with the football. Do not go into a zone defense against him. He will dice you up. But now with those
if he had that offensive
receivers,
line like the Philadelphia Eagles, I think he'd be able to dice him even effectively.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, it'd be great. But with those new receivers we're bringing in, when teams go into man, now Brock Purdy's going to be able to hopefully do some damage there as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely see, man. But it's going to be – I think they're going to pass the ball a little bit more this year. The running game is going to be a little bit of an interesting upcoming season. But I think, like you said, the schedule and health will definitely be a factor. So we'll see. But I think we can win 13 games again. So mark me on this one. I think 13 games we can win this year.
I would not be surprised.
It wouldn't surprise me if we go 13 wins. But – can we get the number 1 seed? Possibly. We'll see. It's possible. But
it's tremendously valuable now. There's only one of them. There used to be two seeds that get a bye at the end of the season. Now there's only one. And, the statistics don't lie. If you get that number 1 seed, you get home field advantage. You are more likely to go to the Super Bowl. And
especially at 2 Levi Stadium home games, yes.
Yes, without the travel, and this roster is stacked. I mean, we just went top to bottom. At every single position, there's 2 or 3 backups fighting for playing time. This could potentially be a really, really good offensive year for the 49ers, and they're just coming off of a year where they've done well offensively. 2 years, actually.
Yeah, they're coming off a year where they came up short, but they had a good offensive statistic number. So I think we're just going to see how it plays out. But Brock Purdy, if he proves it again, that's going to be a good problem to have, because is he worth that kind of money? We'll see.
We'll see. Maybe he gives us a hometown Tom Brady discount type deal.
Give us a hometown buffet type of discount or something.
Right. It's going to be tough to say, but yeah, I expect Brock to have just another season like he's had his first 2 years in the NFL. Just super efficient. Led the league in passer rating, I think was second in touchdown passes. He's already proven he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the top defenses, against top defensive head coaches, facing defensive head coaches multiple times in a row. It doesn't matter. He just comes in and dices you up and will light you up for a couple of touchdowns, 2, 3, 4. And I see no reason for that to change in year 3.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's only going to get better, and plus he's already having a full offseason training. So last year he didn't get that because he was coming off an injury, and then his rookie year he was just behind the depth chart. So it can be, that's something that you can actually kind of put your head up high for. Like he didn't have a full offseason training.
That's right. He's going to be more prepared this year than he ever has been. He has more physical tools this year than he's had in previous years. He's going to have more weapons this year than he's had in previous years. I would not be surprised if this is a career year for Brock Purdy.
If this is a career year, then maybe number 6 comes home.
Let's hope, man.
Let's hope. But no.
I see Kenny in the chat here saying Brock will continue to roll, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and he likes the reference of what I said, hometown buffet. Like everybody knows what hometown buffet is. I don't know why. I think it's out of business for some other reasons, but I used to like going to that place a long time ago. Yep, he's going to be good. But I think we pretty much covered everything, but we'll definitely catch up maybe down the road later in the season when you're free. since me and Drew are probably going to plan on getting you on the show, we'll probably figure out something that works for you.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. One more thing I would just really quickly say
Okay.
is I expect the 49ers to get a deal done with Brandon Ayuk. I know a lot of fans are little stressed about it. Or, hey, we're getting to training camp now. What's going on? We just paid McCaffrey. We've taken care of everybody else. The 49ers have plenty of cap space to get that deal done. And look, CG, you and I know about negotiations. You always get the best deal right at the end.
Right at the end where you can get something reasonable. I think they're trying to compare they're trying to compare the deals. And when you compare the deals, it's more like, well, this is why you're not getting this contract, because this guy's actually really, really good. Maybe you could get this contract because you're kind of similar to this guy. Maybe you can get a little bit.
Yeah, and then they say yes, no, whatever, and then at the last second, all right, here's the real contract, and
you just sign it.
I was always going to sign,
Let's see if they're trying to lowball it a little bit, try to get some little discount out of it. But I think at the end of the day, Ayuk's going to get his contract done. I'm not too worried about it because we're not even in training camp yet. So I think training camp would be the big concern. Yeah, but I think we covered exactly what we were going to say. Like, I think Ayuk, I'm not losing sleep with Ayuk because I already know. Because you look at the Niners cap space, we got like over $32 million. That's enough to pay Ayuk.
Oh yeah,
right off
all in 1 year. I mean,
you can just give Ayuk an extension, and that actually stretches up money. Because when we gave Christian McCaffrey the money, right, it stretched over like $7 million to the cap.
Yeah, it's a 2-year extension, so it does give him a raise. But yeah, you're right. It's spread over a period of years, and they'll do the same thing with Ayuk. That $32 million. We're really not going to use that much of it. They'll probably roll that over into next year's cap, and again, just be ready to go again for these guys. That, like you mentioned earlier, Deebo Samuel, he's a question mark. At some point, they're going to have to take care of Brock Purdy. The 49ers are setting themselves up well for the future here.
Yeah, I think they're not really suffering financially right now. So I think what's going to be concerning is once we pay Brock Purdy that contract, how are we going to be able to manage with the talent we got? Because he's going to have to prove it with lesser talent at some point down the road.
At some point, but he's only just going to get better. Yeah,
for sure. And for everybody else, go check out Josh Putnam's channel. He's got a breakdown channel. I mean, if you want to enjoy a 45-minute refreshing breakdown video, go watch Josh. He knows his breakdown stuff.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of your TikTok channel. So I know we're on YouTube right now, but if any of you YouTubers haven't seen this guy's TikTok channel, go check it out. It's all the best 49er content in one spot. It's great.
Oh yeah. Outside of YouTube, it's been TikTok. I've been more into TikTok because of the 14,000 people. Like, it's like I'm a big deal over there, but over here, I'm a nobody.
Nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, I can't complain about it. Those 14,000 followers over there or something over here, but the 2,000 over here, but I do enjoy being around here, so I wouldn't change it for the world, But for everybody else, man, go check out Josh Putnam's channel, man. You gotta watch the breakdown films. You'll get some knowledge. You'll learn a thing or two from his breakdown.
Well, thank you, man. Appreciate it, and looking forward to come on again with you and Andrew and anybody who else wants to. We'll just talk Niners ball. It's always a good time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And all those guys, thank you guys for stopping by. It was a great time, and we'll definitely catch up for sure, man.